The Nagaraja are the most wayward of vampires, and a clan now full of wayward vampires. They believe themselves to be the first ever necromancers. They revel in the fact that their lineage is not easily traced back to one of the known antediluvians. They believe they once mastered the lands of the dead, having converted their blood to live in such a place. And perhaps as a result of the said ceremony, they ate human flesh in lieu of drinking blood. They believe one night they can become masters of the underworld again. The Nagaraja are rightly seen as boogeymen, as they number but few and advocate for horrible practices of capturing mortals and stripping them of flesh and blood night after night, while keeping them alive through first aid and gifts of vitae. As a desperate group, they have little that binds them as a society beyond their affinity for ghosts. Most master oblivion ahead of any other discipline, and their belief that torment of the body and spirit brings any witness or victims closer to the mysteries of life, death, and undeath. A handful of Nagaraja showed up to the family reunion, claiming some kind of catastrophe drove them out of their home. Initially, they were believed to be some kind of radical form of Duncern. But while the bankers are hobbyists in the realm of cannibalism, the Nagaraja are experts. Years of avoiding attention from both mortals and kindred society have honed them into efficient serial killers, quite useful to their new clanmates. They may no longer need flesh the way they did, but their skills are still useful in this new age, and some never lost the taste. Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our World of Darkness and another episode of Metaplot Monday, where today we're going to be going over the lore sheet Flesh Eaters, which is a bloodline-specific lore sheet for the Hecata. And this is really interesting because we're covering the Nagaraja today, who are not a bloodline of the Cappadocians in any fashion. They happen to be necromancers, but they claim a very dark and hidden lineage that goes back very, very far and all the way to Eastern practices. Some people claim that the Nagaraja are a bloodline of the true Bruja, or they are a bloodline of the Tzimisce. But in reality, they are an order not unlike Clan Tremere, where they have found a way to transfer their mystical ways into that of the Kindred. But there's so many different weird things about the organization known as the True Black Hand. Not the Black Hand as in the Sabbat. Not the Black Hand as in the secret organization within the Sabbat. This is actually I don't know if you would consider it a failed plotline, if you would consider it a toppled dynasty of Kindred existence, but this really did fall into a category of mixing the strange mage capabilities with the spirit world and Kindred of the East, and it was such a combination of so many different things, but it was also a shadow organization that had a tendency to control everything. They had agents in the Camarilla, they had agents within the Sabbat, they had agents everywhere in everything. But their utter destruction back in 1999 during the Week of Nightmares was just a blow to anybody who knew the lore. That this organization existed within the Shadowlands, within the shadow ruins of Enoch itself, practicing its own form of politics and espionage and little dirty secrets that some people still argue about today. But this is the same organization where the true Bruja came from, those time-manipulating Bruja. The Old Clan Zemitzi, or the Old World Zemitzi, were also a huge part of this. Secret Khaldoons. And a very diverse variety of elder vampires who were trying to rule the damn world. And it was a Gehenna cult that was even more deeply underground than the Sabbat itself is. But today we're going to be talking about one member, or one clan that held membership within the Black Hand that weaseled its way into the Hekata in 5th edition, which is the Nagaraja. Nagaraja are flesh eaters, they are necromancers, and they are mysterious. They scare the hell out of the other Hekata. So let's go ahead and see exactly what the Vitreous Path suppliers of necromancy have to offer within their lore sheet. Investing one trait into this lore sheet gets you Viscous. You can still eat flesh in lieu of drinking blood. Biting a mortal and causing aggravated wounds act in all other ways like drinking blood for you. At a rate of 1 hunger per damage inflicted. You can also eat fresh corpses. Vampires are rarely fresh, although the taste is not as good. This opens up an interesting possibility. First off, when you read that, I go, okay, well, that's harder than drinking blood. Especially when you're looking at a group of people who historically practice dominate. They used to have auspex, dominate, and necromancy, or nihilistics if you look further back into the tabletop version of the game. They practiced what eventually became known as the Vitreous Path necromancy, that allowed them to actually eat and survive off the power of wraiths themselves. But they also have the ability, although it does not taste as good, to eat corpses. This is the kind of individual that might very well do fine for themselves if they had gotten into the medical field when they got involved in this. And there's a lot of Giovanni and Hekata in general who are involved in the medical field. So they actually, although they have more disgusting practices when it comes to eating, might very well, if they play their cards right, have a better chance of keeping a proper herd that is just steadily coming into them. Investing 2 traits into this lore sheet gets you Unseen Spirit. Some of the Nagaraja can make themselves unseen to ghosts and spirits. If you do not already have access to the Offuscate discipline, take Cloak of Shadows at no cost. You do not necessarily have the Offuscate discipline, but rather a special power of your own. This power works like Cloak of Shadows, except that it only works against spirits and ghosts. If you do have, or later acquire Offuscate instead of your Offuscate powers, work against ghosts and spirits in addition to their usual effect. This gives you a specialized version of Offuscate even if you don't have Offuscate. Being able to be unseen to the wraiths is a major thing when you're dealing with a group such as the Hekata. Now, my game has this house rule where wraiths see vampires in a specific way. They still see them, but they only see them as like a living, pulsating circulatory system that preys on humans around them. Because vampires are just 1 foot in the grave. And when you think about the idea that certain people are going to be sending retainers to spy, especially on an untrusted faction such as the Nagaraja themselves, it is good to have this. And then there's also the fact that some Nagaraja eat wraiths. That's what the Virtuous Path was, or the Vitreous Path was always about. That was the biggest thing about nihilistics, if you want to call it that, that everybody got excited about if they were playing a Nagaraja, or if they were able to play one of the other vampire clans that happened to get their hands on that incredibly, insanely rare discipline. The ability to feed on wraiths, Being able to sneak up on them with this might come in handy. And the fact that if you buy Obfuscate, it kind of like carries over and allows it to work against Wraiths also, that's pretty damn cool. Investing 3 traits into this lore sheet gets you the perfect murder. You have a lot of experience in planning murders. As long as you have at least a night to plan a cold-blooded, intentional murder, you get 1 extra success on all rolls for that murder scene. These successes are negated by someone who possesses the Send a Murderer bloodline ability. It's kind of interesting to see a lore sheet that interacts off itself. This is talking about how if you have this lore sheet, this specific lore sheet with the perfect murder, which gives you a trait up in all tests involving offing someone. If somebody has the 4th level of this, which we're about to get into, it offsets that. So we're talking about Nagaraja working against Nagaraja. There's so few of them out there, I highly suggest no one work against each other when it comes to that. They need to unite and work together to try to survive within the Hecata. Investing 4 traits gets you Send a Murderer. You're a serial killer, or maybe you've spent a lot of time studying them. You get 2 extra dice on rolls to study murder scenes or track down killers. In addition, you've worked with law officials, mortal, kindred, or both, on some cases. Whether it's through sending them anonymous emails or as a direct consultant, you have 3 dots to spend between contacts with the police force, contacts with investigators in Kindred Society, and status. I like the idea that you are known, like whether or not it's directly or like through email as like a correspondent or something like that. I love the idea that you are known as somebody who can solve murders because you're such a good murderer. I really do. I mean, there's a lot of thought on like, can you trust the person who's able to pinpoint those many details that quickly? And the fact that Send a Murderer tends to offset the perfect murder is that's pretty neat too. I like how they kind of like bounce into each other, although like I said before, I don't think that a bloodline that's so rare should really be in conflict with each other. Investing 5 traits into this lore sheet gets you Monstrous Bite. When ready to attack or feed, your teeth extend to lengthy, splayed, and vicious daggers that protrude from your mouth. When attacking with your bite, you suffer no called shot penalties, gain 1 extra success on all intimidation rolls, and increase your bite damage to 3. Wow. Okay, so that's pretty monstrous. You actually almost get like a Protean addition to this power that allows you to not have to worry about the called shot issues when it comes to biting. Because biting's not really the easiest thing. You typically have to grapple and then bite, and then it's a headache. It's there, but as a storyteller, I could say it's a headache. The idea that the Nagaraja grow these nasty, gnarled fangs is kind of neat because in the old days, before they joined the Hecata, before the Hecata existed, that was one of the things the Nagaraja were known for, was having these disturbing, like shark-like teeth, these sharp, this mouthful of just sharp, jagged, terrifying things that they use to bite and tear the flesh out because that's what they ate. They needed their pound of flesh, not just their pint of blood. With the Nagaraja showing themselves into the Hecata, and I don't have any Nagaraja in the story that I'm running currently, the Black Sheep Chronicle, and I'm really glad about that. Actually, I just don't think that they fit in well with the standard group. I think that this is great for SPCs, the idea that the Nagaraja have the ability to interact, but I don't really see them fitting in well in a family setting, if that makes any sense. So we've just gone over the Flesh Eaters lore sheet on this Metaplot Monday, and I'm wondering what exactly you guys think about this. Do you guys think that just because they have necromancy, oblivion, that the Nagaraja belong with the Hecata? Or do you think that this is a plot line that really should have just been left with the wayside? We could just assume that the Nagaraja had all just died out with the fall of Enoch back in 1999. The fact that they could be used here and there as an SPC mystery, you know, dead bodies popping up, chunks missing, organs missing, things like that. That to me has always been like, oh, this is a neat mystery for a Camarilla city to try to deal with, or try to get Anarchs to figure it out before the Camarilla gets involved. The fact that they're starting to come back and join this organization of Kindred that's trying to gain notoriety in the world of darkness, that they're trying to push past the limitations that the promise of 1528 gave them, and there's only a couple years of that left. I think that the Nagaraja are neat, they're fun, and I like the contributions that they've given to Oblivion in this, because obviously Soul Feast is their contribution. I feel that Oblivion, Necromantic Oblivion in V5 is like all of the different houses throwing something in to make them seem worthwhile in keeping. And I really do love Soul Feast. I think that's just a fun power all the way around. It is the one key Vitreous Path power that really has carried over into Oblivion. Eyes of the Wraith, which was kind of like shared senses in Auspex, but it only worked with Wraiths. You could like see through the eyes and hear through the ears of a random Wraith in the area. That would have been a neat crossover too, but I think Soul Feast fits better than any of the others. But anyway, that's really my take on what's going on with this bloodline and what they have to offer. Very interested, very, very interested in hearing what you guys have to say about this, because it's such a strange addition to V5 with so many other things left in the wayside. We don't have Bali, which my introduction to the Nagaraja was in the exact same book that the Bali came from, the old Storyteller's Guide for Vampire the Masquerade LARP, Mind's Eye Theater, the Laws of the Night series. And it was the true Bruja, the Nagaraja, and the Bali were in that one book. Is this a bloodline that should just be written off? Or is this something that we want to see more of in the future? I'm interested in what you guys have to say. Is this something that we want to see more prominently, or just reduced down to SPC status like it was in originally when the By Night Studios and V20 came out? That is what I'm interested in. Anyway, if you guys are interested in giving us a hand here at our World of Darkness, please keep in mind that we do have a Patreon, and please drop a like, share, and subscribe if you're not already to the channel for more videos. I will put them out as often as possible. I try to at least get one out every Monday, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for joining me. Good evening.